Welcome to Art and Culture Corner, the podcast where we delve into the cultural landscapes with the artists, creators, and visionaries aiming to shape a brighter cultural and creative sector. Join us as we dive into their stories, creative processes, and the impact of art on our world. Get ready for inspiring conversations that celebrate the beauty and power of human expression. Hello Silvia, welcome to today's podcast. Today's podcast will be about eco-anxiety. Silvia is a performer from Rome in Italy. So let's start with the first question for you. Eco-anxiety is particularly prevalent among young people today. How do you perceive this issue, and how do you think your work as an artist can address or alleviate these feelings in younger audiences?
So the thing that strikes me most about eco-anxiety in young people is the isolation they get, or we get. I'm not that young anymore, but I feel like I can really connect to that feeling. And I think the isolation comes from the feeling that some people are really over concerned about it, and some people are just detached from the problem, and so this causes a big also anxiety in communication, like everyone might perceive themselves in a bubble where anyone else is allowed to get inside, because maybe you feel not understood by older people or by peers who don't appear to care about the problem. And so this is something that I think arts and theatre in particular can address, because theatre is about connection, so to get in touch with someone else and to deal with the problem through your body, through your voice, expressing what your fears are, can be at the same time healing for oneself, and at the same time building community and awareness amongst people.
Okay, I was about to make you a really relevant question in what you said, which is in what ways do you believe the arts can empower young people to take action against environmental challenges and manage their eco-anxiety? If you wanted to add something.
I think I covered a bit of that in the last question, but I also think that there's not only like one way or one possible outcome, even in like the same language. Like theatre has not only one language to address the theme, and I mean, you can either spot the theme by, let's say, writing something down and reading it out loud in a public place, or you could just build community inside a closed space and do some like nourishing work for the community inside, or make a play, or take a classical theatre piece and address the things that are dealing with the environmental problem. You can use different tools, and I think every tool is valid. And there are some, let's say, some kinds of theatre which are more political, so more about being in the city, being in the society, and making an action that can actually be, legal or illegal, and that is also a way of expressing, and I think it is the most seen at the moment, like the activism, the public activism. But there are also other ways to deal with the theme, and really to build society, to build communities, to invent new ways to express the feelings of isolation, anxiety, and of really the need to address the problem, the trouble, as Donna Haraway would say. I'll talk about that later.
Okay, what you said was very interesting. So your work in theatre in prison focuses on transformation through art. How do you think this approach can be adapted to help young people confront eco-anxiety and build resilience?
Thank you for the question, and I would like to make a premise first of all, which is that my artistic path actually started as an actress and as a director in what we would call like two core theatre, so on the stage, inside a theatre. But then during the pandemics, I felt that the theatres were closed, and the medias were saying like that our job was useless, and it actually wasn't the moment, because people had like more urgent needs. And I started to reflect on how the theatrical work can actually be more have more impact on society. And so I enrolled at the social and community theatre course at Sapienza University, where I got my bachelor degree, and I got involved in that and wrote my thesis on theatre in prison. And at the same time, I started working in prison with Ludovic Andog, who's a director who has been working in theatre for quite a long time. And I would delve a bit inside the key points, what I think are the key points of the work in theatre, because I think they can really relate to all other forms of theatre making, and for the target of youth as well. So I might say that the first big theme is like building self-awareness, self-confidence and responsibility towards oneself and towards the others. And you can imagine how this is important inside prisons, because we want to build prisons that are places for people to really have a transformation and to change, but it is difficult inside an environment that is so strict, and where relationships are so like distressful and highly I would say like dangerous. It is dangerous in that environment to open oneself up, because you don't feel you're in a safe space. And I can remember, I can't forget this man who I was working with in prison, and he was getting anxious because he couldn't remember a line. And I just told him, like, okay, you have to relax and breathe, and you wrote the piece, so you know that the line is there and you just need to trust it. And he replied, it is very difficult to have trust yourself in a place like this. And I thought that was really the reason why we were there doing that work. And a second point, I would say, in theatre in prison is like dealing with matters that really are relevant to people, in order for them to not just, go and say words and have fun, but to really delve inside something that really relates to you and to your path of transformation. And the third thing I would say is the focus on process rather than on the outcome, which doesn't mean that the outcome, the performance, has to be like unimportant, but it really has to be a part of the process, and it will then have a meaning which is both personal and let's say aesthetical or artistic. And this said, I think if you take away the prison and you just leave theatre, what I just said just applies to theatre in general, and to what theatre can do with its own means, without changing structurally the training or the way you do it. And it can apply to other targets, both to professionals and to youth that are dealing with big themes for themselves. Like the big theme for young people dealing with eco-anxiety can be eco-anxiety, and you can have a transformation inside yourself by doing this kind of work, like focusing on the double standpoint of self-care and of artistic outcome.
Okay, Silvia, thank you very much for this answer. Reflecting on your quote about consciousness and madness, how do you think young people can maintain awareness about environmental issues without becoming overwhelmed by anxiety?
Okay, thank you for this question, and the answer is that I don't have an answer, because I get really anxious about really overwhelmed and anxious. So I don't have the formula to say, oh, I know how not to do it. But I think that the words of Donna Haraway, which is who is a biologist and feminist scholar, can help us to delve more inside this theme. She says that it is important to stay with the trouble. And it is a sort of call for people to be in the present, which is also something that theatre deals with. Like, we're always training to be in the present moment and not to overthink about future or overthink about past. But she also overcomes this concept, because being in the present really means to feel you are a creature among other creatures, and stay with that feeling, and that can be the key to, really take the awareness inside rather than over the top of your head, And I was actually feeling very anxious, the end was going to, the world was going to end when I opened her book. And actually reading this sentence made me feel more rooted in the ground, like I belonged to the ground I was standing on. So I think that this is something that can help. It helped me. I hope it could help others. And as for the madness issue, whenever I feel I'm getting crazy, or I'm being crazy for getting overwhelmed by these gigantic themes, I remind myself that, for example, women were locked up in mental institutions for just disagreeing with their husbands back in the fascist era. So what you consider crazy or mad, in both the senses of being crazy and being angry, are like a socially constructed issue. And so I would say, let's all unite our madnesses and make them something meaningful, because being mad sometimes is just the symptom of something important going on, is not something that has to be repressed, because it's going to cause big troubles.
What are some practical ways you believe theatre can serve as a tool for young people to express their eco-anxiety and turn it into positive action?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll talk about a bit about what I actually did in my experience, because last year I did a workshop in schools, and the theme of the workshop was actually the Anthropocene, and how we deal with the fact that we are impacting on the environment so much. So it is something I have fresh in my mind. And in the way I led the workshop, there are some common points which I usually use. So I usually start workshops by putting a big white sheet in the center of the room with a keyword written on it, and then the group can add their own words connected to the keyword in many ways, like words that have an equivalent meaning or an opposite meaning, or that just sound the same or sound opposite, or instinctive connections, sound connections, etc. And this can foster a conversation and a debate to address the theme, and it actually did when I went in schools to deal with this Anthropocene theme. And it became a way to create new narrations, starting from what their awareness was. I mean, some of the young kids, they had like words that were being repeated by adults, and they maybe didn't relate so much to them, they just repeated them. But then when they addressed something that was something they cared about, you could see that like the body and the feeling was changing, and that they really needed to engage in the work they were doing. And another example of how the theatrical work in the training can really connect people is like there is a simple exercise we do. We stand in a circle, and at a certain point we decide all together to do a movement. Can be, I don't know, jump or raise our left hand, and we really need to do it at the same time. And obviously the first times it's like someone is leading or someone is cheating or someone is making eye contact with someone else to make the action happen. But then as time goes by and the thing begins to be more structured, it can happen that we actually do the movement all together. And I think that is a metaphor of the power of theatre, because if we can really connect to one another and take action inside a small room just to make a jump, then what would happen if we extended this training to utopically the whole world? That would mean to train ourselves as creatures to activate our collective intelligence. And I don't know if I explained myself and if it is possible to get that and how that is related to eco-anxiety and the connection to the environment. But I think that's a very powerful tool to connect to each other, because once you really connect, I think it is impossible to have something like war or violence going on, because you recognize that the other person or object or animal or tree or bee or beetroot or whatever is just like linked to you because you're sharing the same thing, the same moment.
Okay, Silvia, thank you very much for sharing with me your thoughts and your experience and your knowledge about eco-anxiety. And thank you for participating in our podcast.
Thank you, Marina.